Hello everyone and welcome back to One Soccer. I'm your host for today, Josh Deming. I am joined by Peter Galindo and Alexandre Gangue-Ruzic for a Canadians Abroad roundup table, and we are going to start with the Swedish League, focusing on Marco Bustos and Derek Cornelius. Two players that went over to Sweden this year. They've looked very, very good since making the transition, and I'm just starting to wonder, Peter, is this the new potential league for Canadians to find a route to Europe? And what do you think is the reason behind Bustos and Cornelius finding this success?
Big picture, it very well could be a league where players can make that stepping stone move to Europe. And when you see the women's side and how many players have gone to Sweden and have done well and have actually gotten moves from there, like Jenna Hellstrom, for example, you can kind of see the template is there. And even players like Jayden Nelson going to Norway and a big club in Rosenborg and trying to make their name over there and then maybe moving further and further up the European ladder, that's certainly an option. And then when it comes to those players specifically, look, Derek Cornelius had a magnificent rise in Greece with Panathinaikos. The strides he made, especially on the ball, but also with his defensive awareness, that's really helped him to make this move to Malmö, where he's playing for the biggest club in the country. They have massive expectations. When things go their way, they tend to play in European competition. So there's obviously a heightened level there. And you can see that just every game he's playing, it's been flawless. And what we saw from him in the March window, he's translated that to his club form already in terms of just being dominant in the air, spraying passes between the lines, and getting those defensive duels. With Bustos, the longer he has played at Värnamo, you can see that everything's now starting to filter through him. He's playing in a very similar role that he played at Pacific on the right wing, constantly getting the ball, cutting inside. He's gaining more confidence. He's getting goals now. He's creating chances, getting into the box with regularity. And if both of these guys end up doing really well in Sweden, you're going to start to see, I think, other players kind of look, especially in the CPL, I think, where that could actually be a very good move for those kinds of players. They're going to look at that and say, you know what? If Marco can do it, if Derek can do it, and then if you look in Norway, if Jayden can do it, then maybe I can as well.
It's almost like the Swedish League is going to become the new Scottish League for the Canadians, which is good to see. But Alex, let's take a look at Cornelius for a second, because I know there was a lot of debate when he was leaving Greece where he should go, what the right move was. I know Malmo wasn't really, in some people's vision, the perfect move, but they're 7-0-0 to start this season. He looks very comfortable. He's playing in the central center back role in a back three. And like Peter said, his play is definitely going over to the national team, where he looks very good. And in my eyes, could potentially even battle with a Kamal Miller, or maybe even go in that central position. So where do you want to see Cornelius play for Canada going forward? Do you like him in the heart of that back three, or do you like him more on the left-hand side?
Yeah, I think the big thing about the Malmö move that's been fascinating is that he's been the guy kind of at the back. At Panathinaikos, and even to an extent, the Whitecaps, it was just, okay, get reps, get minutes, develop. At Panathinaikos, it was, okay, this is a relegation fight. This is a level where you have to be, fighting. You're always scrapping, you're defending. It's a lot of, battling. And then from there, you improve your skills. This is the perfect logical next step up, because now you're the guy on a team that's expected to win every week. And, those are different sorts of expectations. And the fact he's been doing that in the heart of a back three game after game, he's been, having to command his team on the ball, having to, put in huge defensive shifts. I think that translates very nicely to the middle. And I think if you look at, Canada's center backs, especially say after Vittoria, because we don't know how long he's going to be around, Scott Kennedy, with his speed, you'd almost want him outside, because he has the size to play in the middle, but he almost seems better suited to outside. Kamal Miller, he looks like someone who could be on the ball in the middle, but off the ball, his best attributes are best suited outside. All of a sudden, maybe a guy like Cornelius could be in the middle with Kennedy and Miller flanking him, and it would make a lot of sense logically to have that based on what the growth we've seen.
And moving to Europe for Canadians is obviously a dream. So to see one of the star players of the Canadian Premier League, I like Peter's point, go over to Sweden, kind of feels like he's working his way up. He's now scored a couple of goals. He's looking very comfortable. Do you think that a star player, let's say like a Didic, for example, at the back, or even going forward, like a young De Rosario, if he starts finding form, would look at this type of move that Bustos does and said, all right, if I can replicate this type of form in Canada, I can find my path to Europe?
Well, when you look at a player like Kwasi Poku, for example, he trialed at Häcken with the Swedish champions from last year. And by all accounts, he impressed a lot in some of their preseason friendlies and training sessions. So you're kind of already seeing it with players like Kwasi Poku. So yeah, for sure, players like him could definitely make that jump and even look towards making that move. But, to your point, Josh, even a slightly older player like an Amer Didic, who's 28, 29 years old, and maybe is starting to get into his peak years as a center back, because 29 to 32, 33 is usually when players in that position tend to start peaking a lot. He can still maybe look at maybe one last opportunity to get into the European environment again. And Sweden could end up being that route, especially when I think for players like him, once the CPL becomes quite comfortable, you're starting to find success, you're playing for a solid team, you maybe start to plateau a little bit, maybe going to Sweden where tactically you're going to evolve, quality wise it's going to be a step up, and then it's also just a new experience for you culturally and everything else. So I feel like that could actually end up working for two different kinds of players in the CPL. First, on the younger side, in terms of players who still want their career to continue to rise and to meet their potential, and then maybe for players slightly older who can look at it as one last hurrah to be able to live out their European dreams.
Look at Zator. Perfect. Ideal move for him, and he's absolutely thriving right now in Poland. But let's switch.
Quick point on that as well that I think is also worth considering. Sweden could be a perfect gateway for a few other factors that we're maybe not considering. The calendar. It's huge for CPL players that you can have a full season and, in the fall transfer, and you have a full preseason. And you walk in like a guy like Marco Bustos. I think that's, something he even talked about recently, is like he had a chance to go to like a Serie B, but you go in mid-season, you're fighting relegation. Sweden, you have that chance with the calendar matching up with the CPL. Also, the level is comparable, but also you're still pushing into Europe. I think there's a few factors that could make it a bit of a gateway league. Switching
our attention now, last night, Montreal took on TFC in a Canadian Championship clash that saw a bit of an upset, I guess, because, TFC were the home side, but Montreal had a fantastic performance. And Peter, three players that stood out to me: Jonathan Sirois, Mathieu Choiniere, and Sean Rea. But I want you to focus on Choiniere because I just think the performance he put in last night was of a warrior that helped his side move on to the semifinals.
Yeah, and this is what he's been doing for the last few games now in the midfield pivot with Victor Wanyama, in that he's just a tireless runner. Like, I feel if he entered a marathon and ran with the ball, he'd be able to complete it no problem, because that's just how much he's been running around the pitch for the last few weeks. And it's not that he's just showing the work rate, it's how efficient he is with it. If you look at his underlying numbers when it comes to pressure regains, pressures, the amount of interceptions he's logging, the amount of even just the amount of times he's getting into the box for a midfielder, which I think is really the key here, in that he's helping out defensively but also chipping in offensively. And he's just been the complete player for Montreal this year, and a big reason why they've been able to turn it around the last few weeks. And so when you see him in a game of this magnitude where you're playing against your rivals, it's away, it's a cup competition, and to this point, you've played kind of a mixed bag of teams where they're either struggling, they're going through coaching changes, or you're playing the Vaughan at Suri, for example, you're playing a semi-professional team, and you're like, okay, but how good has he really been? And now to step into that environment and to thrive, that just goes to show you that this is quite legit. Sean Rea, honestly, he's been, I feel, flown under the radar a lot, just because when it comes to the chance creation, or even just when it comes to the overall attacking involvement that we saw from him at Valor the last couple seasons, it's not maybe been there to that level, but he's doing all of the quote unquote little things really, really well, and that he's linking play together between that pivot and the front line, with the wingbacks coming forward as well. He's pressing relentlessly. He's getting involved defensively, because that's what those kind of two players in behind the striker do in Sean Rea and Bryce Duke, and that they kind of tuck inside, they help form a little more of a compact midfield, they help out defensively, they help you get forward quickly, and he's doing that very, very well. And if he can hone that, that the chance creation is there, he's a threat off set pieces, that's only going to come. And Sirois, considering how aggressive goalkeepers have to play in Hernan Losada's system, the fact that he has been able to really be that incisive and be comfortable coming off of his line and constantly being involved in ways that goalkeepers, maybe some of whom, are not going to be too comfortable with, he's been able to pass that with flying colors so far too.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with all three of them, but like you said, the complete package is Mathieu Choiniere, and you saw it, the way that he's able to recover back and create space for himself and also get involved. That run he had, the beautiful ball that was put into the box to pick him an assist as well. Alex, is he doing enough right now? There's the Nations League coming up, the Gold Cup. This seems like a perfect opportunity to integrate a player like Choiniere.
Yeah, it's gonna look. I think he's shown enough body of work. It's been 3 parts of 3 seasons now. Whenever he's been healthy, he's now done it in 3 different roles. Really, like he has such a good attention to detail. He's cerebral. He's constantly improving. I just think those are all attributes that someone like John Herdman's going to be looking at and be impressed with. The versatility, all of those factors. So yeah, I think he 100% should get a look. Canada needs depth in that midfield, and then you add in that he can maybe deputize at wing back, so you can maybe one less body to bring there, and allows you to bring an extra body in midfield. It's key, and I think it's something that Choiniere 100% of this Montreal group. Certainly Sirois deserves a look in goal, and Sean Ray a long term. Keep an eye out, but Choiniere definitely deserves a call.
And Alex, we're going right back to you right now because we're going to switch our attention a little bit to Vanessa Gilles, who has scored 3 goals in 3 straight games. Pretty incredible goal scoring record right now for a center back. What do you think has gone behind this just random spurt of scoring goals? Because it's quite the story, to be honest.
Yeah, Vanessa Gilles has always been very proficient in the box. At her time at Bordeaux, it felt like every 2 weeks she was scoring. Like she's always been lethal. In Angel City, she scored a fair few goals in her short time there. But I think with Lyon, most of this time has been her just improving on the ball, improving technically, improving just to the speed of play that they play at. But I think now she's really found that confidence, because she's always kind of been a defensive goal scorer, even for Canada. And I think now she just found that confidence. She kind of, Lyon also has kind of realized what they have. Like, okay, like you have both Wendy Renard and Vanessa Gilles. Let's use it. And it's been great because she can finish those chances and she can be a menace in the box.
Moving along now to our Canadians quick hits section. If you missed it over the weekend, Celtics celebrated being champions of Scotland for the 53rd time, so a big congratulations to Alistair Johnston. He did not feature in the match, but he definitely was a part of the celebrations.
And Nico Sigor, 4 straight starts at Hajduk Split, young 19-year-old right back / midfielder who's really impressing there. Technically gifted player, and the fact that he's getting minutes for one of the biggest clubs in Croatia, that's going to probably have a lot of Canadians on high alert.
To the women, it was a busy weekend, which is perfect. World Cup looming. You want to see some of these top performances, and one player that's going to be huge is Jessie Fleming, who scored her first goal for Chelsea since December. Great finish. Good just to see her in and around the goals after Chelsea's Champions League elimination. Chloe Lacasse has had a busy season, has been winning silverware, and now she has a second trophy to add to the cabinet. They won their 3rd straight Portuguese league title to go along with the Taça da Liga title they recently won to complete the domestic double. So great to see from Lacasse, who has had a phenomenal season. Over to some of the youngsters as well. It was a debut weekend. It was first Amanda Allen with Orlando. The 18-year-old becomes the youngest ever Orlando Pride debutante. So that was huge to see. Recently signed, is in the mix for the World Cup squad. But one name that is certainly going to be in that World Cup squad, and Canada will be keeping an eye on her form, is Jade Riviere, who made her long-awaited Manchester United debut this past weekend, which is huge. Hopefully she can turn that into more minutes. Lastly, Canada always needs goals, so they'll be happy to see that Jordan Hoytema is heating up once again with OL Reign. Scored another NWSL goal recently, scored there, and also has a Challenge Cup goal. So 3 goals over the last couple of weeks. Good to see her heating up, getting into good positions, playing like a true number 9, and Canada's going to be keeping a close eye on that, that's for sure.
That is all the time we have for in this edition of Canadians Abroad. I really hope you all enjoyed it, and if you did, be sure to tune in for next week's update.